Hi, my name is Alicia Baxter, and this is my case study presentation. My case study student was Selena. She is a 10-year-old girl in the 5th grade. She lives with her mother on the weekdays, but she lives with her aunt on the weekends. Her mother constantly degrades her by calling her fat out in public. When she's with her aunt on the weekends, her aunt basically just lets her do whatever she likes, eats a ton of junk food, watches hours upon hours of television, and so now because of that, she's on the verge of obesity. Her strengths and interests. Her main strength is reading, and she likes to read nonfiction books, mostly the Judy Moody and the Not So Bummer Summer. And her interests are making things, mostly art, watching television. Her favorite is Disney Channel with Dog with a Blog, Jessie, and things like that. She plays basketball. She enjoys going to the movies. Her favorite movies are The Terminator, She's the Man, and she enjoys playing the piano and swimming, and she enjoys playing computer games, mostly the baking cake kind. Her academic challenges are being prone to being absent a lot because of the family situation with her parents being divorced. She doesn't see her dad because of the custody, so she stays with her mother. And because of being absent, she scores poorly in math. She also suffers from being verbally abused, mostly by her mother. Her mother would call her fat out in public, and she called her fat in front of the teacher and the counselor at the school. Her academic history is basically an average student, scoring mostly B's and C's, but she would have a tendency to fail a couple of tests. And those tests would be the ones that she would miss the most days on, is why she would fail. While observing her, I observed her in 3 locations. First was her homeroom, second was in math class, third was in lunch. In homeroom, the activities I observed was the bell ringer and smart time. For bell ringer, they had to fix the sentence structure for 2 sentences by using the SNVP1 structure. And then for smart time, they're supposed to read from 8:20 in the morning until 8:50, and it's supposed to be silent reading. They can either read their AR book, classroom book, or a book they brought from home, but it has to be age appropriate. Her response was willing to work. She did self-correct her sentences, but during smart time, she was not reading. She would, instead of reading, she would get out her journal and start drawing. The teacher responded by giving her verbal praise on completing the bell ringer, but gave her verbal warning during smart time that she needed to be reading and not drawing and talking to the person sitting next to her. Areas of concern, obviously being easily distracted. If somebody were to be on the other side of the room and was whispering something, her attention would immediately go to that. She would use only one sentence pattern for all the sentences. So instead of it being verb, adverb, adverb, how it was supposed to be, she would say that was it for every single sentence instead of that one particular sentence. Instead of it being verb, adverb, adverb, she would put verb, adverb, adverb, adverb. In math class, I observed the bell ringer and her test. For the bell ringer, they had a few problems up on the board. She got all but one correct, which was very good. But on the test, she got all but 4, and they were just careless mistakes because she would not look at the equation fully. The teacher response was verbal praise for having the most correct on the bell ringer, but she did have to send her to another classroom to finish the test because she didn't finish in time with the other students, even though it was an online test. Some areas of concern, obviously not looking at the entire equation. Once she would see, a multiplication sign or a division sign, she would just immediately think, oh, I'm supposed to do it this way, when she's supposed to do it another way. And she would rely on multiple choice instead of short answer. That was the major issue. She would get the multiple choice right, but not the short answer, where she actually had to write out the answer. At lunch, I observed her walking to the cafeteria, standing in the lunch line, walking with a tray, having silent lunch, taking the tray to the trash can, and then walking outside with class to go to either recess or go to the last block. Her response was that she walked quietly to the lunchroom and then to her seat. She ate her lunch silently and then talked when allowed. We have red cups that we use. When the red cup is on the table, that means no talking. When the red cup is removed, then you're allowed to talk, but with an inside voice, mostly whispering. The teacher response was that there was no warnings that were given to her, but the areas of concern would possibly be changing seats with another student, because she would have a tendency to start talking during silent lunch on most days. Her social strengths and challenges. She's best friends with the popular girls, and these are the girls that everybody wants to be. They think they're the hot stuff in the classroom. It's actually quite funny. She would like to be friends with the smarter girls, mostly the ones in PACE. She sits at lunch with the outcasters. She thinks the popular girls are the smart ones because she thinks those are her best friends. And that's who she goes out to recess with. But she usually doesn't play with the artists, the ones that like to doodle on their classroom assignments or tests. So that's usually who she doesn't play with. Some effective interventions I did was during my plant and animal cell lesson I did. They were to build cells using graham crackers and rice cakes. We did, for the cell membrane, I used Nutella. And then for the plant cell, for the cell wall, I did Twizzlers. And then we used chloroplast for M&Ms. And then mitochondria for the marshmallows, and then raisins were the ribosomes. And with defining the terms, instead of having her write it out like everybody else, I had some typed up for her, and all she had to do was just cut and paste them into her lab notebook. My reflection on the interventions that I did, what worked was having the definitions pre-made, but what didn't work about that was that I didn't have enough one-on-one teaching with her. Because of having such a large classroom and having to meet everybody's needs, I wasn't able to meet with her needs as I wanted to. Well, another thing that worked was rearrange the sitting to where she wouldn't get as distracted. But what didn't work about that was instructional time was taken away, trying to figure out where to place her, who not to place her with, and things like that. I did the cooperative learning group, and my plan was to have a peer tutoring group. What happened was I grouped Selena with a couple of PACE students along with other strugglers. That way she didn't feel like, well, I hope she didn't feel like she was the only one not smart enough in the class or the only one struggling. So, and the results from that were she scored higher on her test and she scored higher on her homework because of having the peer tutoring group. What I would have done differently though was not placing her in group, but doing more with a peer tutor. That way she gets that one-on-one attention that she so desperately needs. And most importantly, what I've learned from Selena this semester is to always hold your head high no matter the situation. Because of her situation, it has allowed me to think that what I'm going through is not as bad as what she was going through. And I also learned that when given the right amount of attention, astonishing things will happen or thought would. Thank you.